What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, or possibly to the channel. We're back on our 91 Z28 1LE project this week. I'm going to be teaching you guys, or showing you guys how I prep a car for paint. From this stage, once you think most of your body work is done, and you'll see on this here that it's not all done. That's why you do your primer stages. There's actually a few reasons you do your primer stages. That would be one, to make sure you don't miss anything. I've already started on this blocking. Most of the other side of the car is pretty much ready, but I do want to bring you guys in on this side here and explain some tips and tricks I've learned along the way, and to help you, get smoother and transition onto the paint process quicker than you might right now. So with this here, I'm going to be blocking with 220 grit. Now this is just our first prime stage, except for the fenders. They've been primed. If you've been following this build, they've been primed a couple different times, but I'm still going to block those now and reprime them with the car all together. So I'm going to be blocking with 220. You do want to get you a block that's this is the block I'm going to be using. It is 12 inches long. It is a Durablock. I've had this block for probably 15 years. One of the first things I bought when I got in the industry was a set of Durablocks, and I've had them for a long time. They work really well, and pretty much anything I need to do, they work out good for that. So I do body work with them, I do my blocking with them, everything I need to do, they work out really well for that. So highly recommend if you guys are just getting into this. I don't know what they cost now. I think when I bought mine, they were like 50 bucks for a set, and I think there might have been there were 5 blocks in that, so that's a really good deal. There's a lot of expensive blocks out there. I'm not cutting on those, but you can really get the same deal and achieve good quality with just Durablocks. So pick up some Durablocks, and like I said, after my first coat, you could block with 180. I've got 220, so I'm going to block with 220 just to make that next coat of primer do a little bit less work on filling the 180. So we're going to do 220, and you can even block 320. It just might take you a little longer. So I found the sweet spot for me is between 180 and 220 to block before my final coat of high build. So I've got a guide coat on this. I'm going to block this car down, and it's going to show me exactly what I've got. And then when I find something that needs fixed, I'll bring you guys in so you can see, exactly what I found and what you guys are looking to find. If it blocks down perfect, then you're good, and you're good to go on to the next coat, and you're gonna have a really straight, slick car at that point. But more than likely, when you're doing something like this, you're gonna find 1 or 2 spots, or maybe a ton more, maybe a lot of spots, which is fine. But you're gonna want to, stay true to the block. Don't dig. Just keep the block flat. X pattern, I'll show you that too, and then be real about it. Whenever you find something, fix it now. It's better than to go on and paint the car and then something always eat at you because you knew it was there and you didn't fix it beforehand. So if you have a chance to fix it now, fix it now. So I'm gonna throw you guys on the time lapse and just let you guys, because this stuff takes a while. I bet it would take me 8 to 10 hours to block this whole car and get it ready for its next coat, and that's if I don't really find a whole lot. It might take even longer than that if you find a lot of little things you got to fix. So I'm gonna throw you guys on time lapse and get blocking on this, and if I find something that I need to fix, I'll bring you guys in to show you exactly what it takes to fix on top of the primer, because I wouldn't fix dents or dings or scratches the same way on top of this primer that I would on top of metal like we did earlier, because you don't want to start back over and be sanding down the body filler with 80 or anything like that. You want to kind of keep it to where one more coat of primer can fill those scratches and you can move on. So all right guys, one other point I want to make on this here is on your sandpaper. Yes, sandpaper can be expensive, especially if you use a lot, and you're going to use a lot doing a whole car like this. My advice though is keep your sandpaper fresh. Like I said, sandpaper is expensive. Changing it often, you're going to go through some sandpaper, but your time is also expensive, and the less time you use blocking, the less time you have for other things. So keep your sandpaper fresh. When you notice it start to not cut as good as it was when it was new, you need to get a new piece for many reasons, but don't try to skimp and save a little bit of money on sandpaper and spend an hour when it should take you a half hour. So that'd be another quick little tip on this here. So Okay guys, we're gonna start blocking, and when you block, you obviously need to go to the contour, the shape, you know, the car, but I will come in and I will cut angles like this here, up and down. And on the front of this hood roll, so you gotta roll with it. And you can also do that at tip too. I mean, people probably think I'm crazy wiping on my jeans or whatever, but whenever that's kind of clogged up, just wipe it on your jeans, get it all off in a brand new piece again. All right, this has only been a couple minutes here of sanding here, and you can tell like this area here. See how you can tell it's got the guide coat, it's low. And you can also tell over here that it's starting to break through a little bit, which means you need to stop. As soon as it starts to break through this primer, just stop, okay? That means this is low and you're gonna need a little bit of filler in this area. But if you're not seeing where you're going through a little bit, just keep on going until you get to this point where it's barely starting to, you can barely starting to see. You know, so you don't want to go through, you know, you're trying not to go through your primer before you get all your black off. If you do, then this is a little small spot that's going to need fixed. So, but most of it, for the most part, come out nice and flat. But this area here is going to be a little low. And honestly, when I run my hand over it, I can feel it. You know, I can tell it's there. But when you do a car that's, you know, you're painting a whole car, it's a lot added at one time. It's easy to miss stuff, and you could go over the car, you know, forever and try to find stuff. But you're better off, in my opinion, fixing the stuff you can definitely see, getting in primer, guide coating it, blocking it, and then being able to really see what's going on with it, you know, instead of just trying, you know, chasing your tail. So I'm going to take you guys on this side real quick and show you. See this side of the hood blocked out nice. This fender, obviously I got this down here. It was in a spot where I couldn't really get to it, but the fender, this fender is good. Both fenders should be no problem. But like this door here, it broke through a little bit on the edges, which is fine because I'm using 220. Whenever I go to wet sand this, the last coat, it won't, you know, it won't break through like that. But you can see here, this was a definite ding that was missed. And I would have never found that had I not blocked and guide coated this car. But the rest of this door is really nice and straight. So I went in here and fixed this already. And then I was telling you guys about that roof. There was a small spot here and over there from that hail damage. But most of this blocked out. And you could see in some spots where it was just now starting to break through. And that was because I had a lot of lows, little small dings that actually blocked out with the primer. So now I put 3 good heavy coats of primer on this. Most of it is off now because you can see how thin it is everywhere, which is fine. The less material in the car, I feel like, the better. So most of this primer is blocked off, but a lot of it went into filling a lot of those small little areas, you know. So, and then same with this quarter. This quarter's blocked. It didn't need any work. It's good to go. So, yeah, this is what we're aiming for on the other side, just to find our areas that weren't, you know, like that there. That would have definitely been missed if you just rolled on and painted this car, you know, and it would have ate you up because you'd be like, man, I could have fixed that while I was there. So it's definitely better to find it now and fix it. It don't take much time to fix them, you know, once you're there. So let's get back over to this side, keep on rolling. I am going to pull these blisters here in a minute so I can block them separately and block under the blisters, but you know, just want to kind of show you guys what's going on. So I'm going to throw you guys on time lapse and get this whole hood blocked, and then we'll come in whenever I go to fix the body work on top of this primer. I'll show you how I do that because I definitely do that differently than when the car's in metal and I can, you know, just kind of go at it. So All right, guys, this is exactly what you're looking for when you know you're straight. And this isn't ready for paint, obviously, because I just used 220. I'm going to wet sand to 400, maybe even 600, but I am going to be using a sealer, so probably just 400. But you can tell the difference in this hood and stuff where we kind of broke through some areas. It's not quite just, there just yet. But this fender, it's been blocked and primed twice, and you could tell I didn't break through anywhere. It is broke through right on that edge a little bit, and that's from whenever I was body working this door. So this fender is arrow straight. There's no black left, and I didn't break through anywhere. So I know we're flat, I know we're straight, no deep scratches, no anything. That fender it's gonna be beautiful when it's done. Also, some of these areas where I'm breaking through, it is a big deal, but it's more of a big deal if you can tell that's black. That's where our sealer was. Definitely, if you do break through your high build primer, the buff color primer, you don't want to do that, but you definitely don't want to break through your sealer or your epoxy, because if you break through that epoxy to your metal, then you're in a situation where you are, epoxying again in these areas, because I wouldn't put 2K over metal unless you get DTM primer, which is okay for small spots, but I still wouldn't use DTM high build primer over big areas. But just try to stay away from breaking through, period. But if you do happen to break through, definitely don't break through to the metal. And that's what I was saying in another video, how I like to run black epoxy, or if I run white epoxy, then I'll run a different color 2K high build primer, because it's just easier to see. All these areas that you see are a little bit thin. Those aren't metal. Those are my sealers. So I'm still really well protected. I'm not going down to the metal or anything like that. And that epoxy, it's a 1-to-1 epoxy. It's pretty thick, and I put 2 coats on everything when I do epoxy, so it's pretty thick too. So I got a little ways to go before I would get down to the metal, and I really don't want to do that anyhow. So I'm gonna throw you guys on the time lapse. I think, I'll probably throw you on time lapse to do this door and quarter, and then we'll kind of go over everything. I only found one spot on this hood so far that needs any body work, so I'm gonna wait. Instead of mixing up filler for one small ding, I'm gonna wait, because I know there's gonna be a couple dings on this side of the roof I'm gonna fix, maybe on the door quarter, I don't know. But once I get this whole side blocked, I'll come in with filler and fix a couple of these little spots. Right now, like I said, there's only one on this hood, but I know there's gonna be a couple more on this roof. So I'll throw you guys on time lapse, and we'll get the rest of this side blocked out. Alrighty, guys, I didn't end up time lapsing this. I just figured you guys have seen enough of that blocking already as it is. So I do have this door blocked, this quarter blocked, and I went ahead and pulled the spoiler, and I blocked the trunk lid as well. That spot that was on that trunk lid that I thought was a low, which it was a low, but it blocked out with this primer, so I'm confident with the next round of primer. It's gone now, but I know it'll be fine. So this quarter, you guys can see right there is a little ding, and you can tell it really shows you when you block with that guide coat. You can really see what's going on, but that's just a little ding that was missed initially, and that's exactly why we're doing these primer and block stages. So I've got to fix that little ding there. That's all that's on the quarter, and then there's a couple up here. I mean, really small stuff. A lot of it blocked out, but a couple of them didn't. That's from that hail. But before I started on this car, I stripped, oh man, probably 1/8 of an inch of filler off this whole roof. It was pretty crazy. Definitely overkill for the damage that was on it, because I stripped it to metal, fixed a few of them, and then we're here. So without having all that filler, so that's definitely the way to do it. Strip it down. But this door is beautiful. It turned out great. Broke through a little bit down here on the edge, but that's just, I think, because it's the edge, so it's straight. The door's not going to need anything. So basically, I've got that spot on the hood right there. It's really faint, but you can see I'm starting to break through there and there, so that's a low spot. This spot over here, initially, I kept blocking on it, and it blocked out without hardly breaking, so I'm not going to mess with this spot here. I think that next primer coat will get that. But this here, I can feel it pretty good. So I'm gonna fix that spot, these few spots up here on the roof, and then this spot on the quarter. And I'm gonna bring you guys along to show you how I fix stuff like this on top of the primer, because like I said, what I'm aiming to do here is this next primer coat, I want to be my last coat, so I can wet sand that coat and paint. I don't want to fix these areas, prime it, block it, prime it again. My next primer stage, I want to be it for this car. Basically gonna take it a little bit easier on these dings, fixing them, than if I would if I had still a few more primer coats to go. So yeah, let's get those knocked out, and then this thing will be ready for its next coat of primer. I'll pull that bumper, and then we're gonna do the bumpers and the little pieces together separately. I'm not gonna paint them the same time as the car. I'm gonna paint the car, and then I'm gonna paint the bumpers and spoiler and blisters, that kind of stuff, after the car's painted, and then I can just put it all together. So. All right, guys, the most important part, I'd say about, there's really two important things when you're trying to do body work over primer like this. First really important part is make it easy on yourself. So be as neat as you can be with the filler. Keep it really tight to where, the less you have to take off and the less you have to sand, the better you're gonna be. Because all we're trying to do is fill that low spot. We don't really want to, sand our primer anymore if we can help it. We mainly just want to fill that low spot, and then we'll come back and just touch it, the top of it with our sandpaper to make it where we want it to be. So like I said, keep it tight and right where it needs to be. And then, like I said, I always blend my edges like that. And I know it's probably hard to see on here, but that will sand really quick and easy. All right, guys, I've let this dry up real good. I would advise in letting it dry up good, because in some situations I would say get on it before it's hard and cut most of it. But in this case, I don't think that's the way to go. I think you let it dry good. I'm going to be using this same block. My aim is, the reason I soften these sides is that filler is higher, obviously, than the hood. So I want to stay as much on that filler as I can, bring it down to this level of the hood. That's the whole idea, is bring that filler down to where it's just, makes it straight and flat. So, it might take a little bit of work to do it that way, but that really is, the way to get it straight and flat. So, and I'm also going to be using 220, which I know that sounds crazy to cut filler, and it's going to take longer, but it's going to take longer to cut this filler, but it's going to save you time in the end. Instead of using 80 grit and having to mess with that, I'm just going to cut this down with 220. That's why I only put what I needed on there, so I can just take off the minimal amount. But 220 this, and then it'll be ready for that next coat of prime, and then, like I said, we'll be able to be done with the primer stage after that. So. And I know you guys probably can't see that, but I am literally just right on top of this filler. And once you'll hit the primer a little bit once it starts to come down, but you really want to not dig into that primer. If not, you'll have a low and a low on each side. So. Get another piece of paper here. pretty much what we're trying to do is blend and feather this filler right into our primer. Okay, that spot's done. Okay, so here's that close-up area. You can see, you know, I broke through on each side. Like I said, we probably would because it, you know, once it's coming down, but I didn't break through the metal. It's just the epoxy. So I'm literally as far down as I want to go because I don't want to, definitely don't go through the epoxy. I don't really want to go through the 2K, the high build either, but so this was our dent. You could tell it's filled. And we didn't break through on either side through the epoxy. So this spot, and it feels perfectly smooth, straight. So it's this spot's good to go. There's no doubt once I put my final coat of primer, that'll be good. Those are only 220 scratches like the rest, all of it is. And it only took, you know, a minute or two to break that down, even with that 220. So as long as you got a fresh piece of 220, it'll break that down real quick. But as what that did is avoid, you know, having deep scratches to sand. You know, if you cut it down to 80, then you got to get back all the way back up there to 220 to prime it. Then by that time, you're definitely going to be through all these layers that you don't want to be through. So that's really the way to do that. You know, on top of the primer, I've got a few spots here. Quite a few actually on this side. There was only like 2 over there, I think. But these will block down quick on this side too. And then I got a spot down there at the bottom. But I'm going to get these things blocked down just like I showed you just on the hood and get back with you guys. We'll go from there. So I got all these spots here blocked down. You can tell exactly where the little ding was. These areas up here are blocked down. So our primer on this car, you know, especially on that roof, is real thin. So whenever we go with our next round of primer, you know, we'll put 3 more coats back on it, and it will I have full confidence this car is going to block out super straight and ready to paint. So you can probably tell in that hood area under the blisters it needs sanded still. And then down here at the very bottom where the ground effects go, it needs sanded too. But I'm just going to take my DA with some 180 on that, since, you know, I'm going to obviously scratch it up so the next primer coat will stick. But I'm not going to get crazy with block and all that. It all gets hidden underneath the ground effects. So I won't paint the stick there, but I don't need it to be, you know, straight and perfect like the rest of the car. So I'll show you guys this side. But yeah, this car blocked out really good for its, you know, first primer stage compared to, you know, some of these other cars that have, you know, maybe not been taken care of quite as much or whatever. But this one still had its fair share of dings and stuff like that. But pretty straight car. But and also whenever you guys are getting this thing ready for its next primer coat, I always take red Scotch-Brite and make sure you scuff your edges really good of every panel and your little wheel lip inside there, just so your next primer coat will stick. You know, every coat you do, whether it's you know, paint or primer or whatever, you want it to stick to the surface you're trying to get it to stick to. So just some red Scotch-Brite on all the door edges, fender edges, hood edges, you know, all that stuff will kind of ensure, you know, you have good adhesion. So yeah, I would definitely advise doing that as well. Okay guys, that's going to be it for this video on the 1LE. Just to clarify, once I primered this, obviously I've done it in pieces. You guys have seen me do it in pieces, and there's been some areas that have been primed for a long time. But even the latest stuff that I primered, which was those doors, set for a few days before I decided to block it. And now that it's blocked, I'm going to let it sit for an additional few days because my plan here, you know, ideally I want as many solvents to, you know, leave the car as possible right now. And there's a lot of chatter out there about, you know, right and wrong ways to do things. But as I was sanding this, I could still smell it pretty strong. You know, I think it's the reducer in it, to be honest with you. I mixed this 4-to-1 with 1 part of reducer to get that primer to lay out flat. And if I can get all those solvents out, you know, before I paint it, that's, you know, what I'm aiming to do, and everything shrink up and completely dry. So now that, like I said, once it was wet, I let it dry for a few days. I don't know how many days, maybe 4 days, something like that. And now that it's blocked out, I'm also going to let it have a few days to dry. If you're in a hurry on a car, I mean, it is what it is. But I'm not in a hurry on this. I mean, I want to get it done, but I'm not going to, you know, I'm going to do the best job I can on it. So I'm going to let this dry for a few days. All I've got to do, like I was telling you, is the red Scotch-Brite stuff and the sanding the bottom, and then I'm just going to set this car aside, let it completely gas out over the next few days, and then in the next video, I'll get you guys back on, and we will put our last coat of primer on this, and then get into jamming it and stuff like that. So I am going to give you guys a paint reveal. I almost forgot about that. So the paint here, and I'm going to go ahead and show you guys that so you can check it out and something to look forward to. All right, guys, here it is. This is the base coat for the 1LE. Hope you guys are as pumped as I am about that color. It's pretty, I think that it's pretty close to the stock color, but it's not exactly the stock color, you know, as far as the code goes. I didn't get factory paint or matched paint. So I am going to go over in, I don't know about the next video, maybe the next video, but I'm going to go over what materials are going to go on this car, from the clear coat to base coat, sealer, that kind of stuff, in case, you know, you guys are doing this at home and you want to kind of have an idea what it takes, you know, as far as how much it takes, and what you might want to use, and my thoughts on some of these products I use. So, yeah, I think that's it for this video. So, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Thanks for watching.